Hello, everyone. Today, I will be discussing gold mining in the late 19th century South Africa. To start off, what is gold mining or even mining itself? Mining is the extraction of valuable minerals or other geological materials from the earth, usually from an ore body, lode, vein, seam, reef, or placer deposits. Gold mining is the exact same thing, but gold is the valuable mineral. When people think about how gold is mined, some might have images of a person in a hard hat underground somewhere with a pickaxe chipping away at the walls of the earth. In reality, that's not the complete case. In fact, according to the Gold Organization or World Gold Council, there are 5 steps to gold mining. These steps include exploration of Earth's geography, development, which involves developing a plan to construct the mine, operation of gold mining, where ore is being extracted and processed into gold, decommissioning, where after the operation is over, workers restore the land or area to its original state as best as they can, and post closure, where gold mining companies assume responsibility for the management of a site even after the mine is closed. They then restore as they clean and revegetate the land to ensure long-term environment sustainability. With a little background to what gold mining is, let's talk about the first discovery of gold in South Africa. The first recorded discovery of gold was on the Witwatersrand that was made by John Garrett Bontes in June 1884 on the Vogelschreuersfontein farm. And another discovery was made in September 1884 by the Struben brothers, who uncovered the Confidence Reef on the Wilgesproot farm near present-day Roodeport. Yet, these were just minor reefs, and today it is commonly believed that the credit for the discovery of the main gold reef must be attributed to George Harrison, whose findings on the Langalagate farm were made in July 1886, either by accident or systemic prospecting. Also, fun fact, the Witwatersrand Basin in South Africa is the largest gold resource in the world. This is where this is also where the world's deepest gold mine is found. This is called the Mponeng gold mine, which is over 4 kilometers deep. Now, let's take a look into how people mined gold in the late 19th century South Africa. We will be examining this photo from this point on to discuss the tools used, the people who worked in the mines, and the experience of the mine. Here we have an image of people in a gold mine. This is a photograph of gold mining in South Africa in the late 19th century. The people in this photo are native African peoples and an Afrikaner, who are descendants of Dutch settlers. As you can see, there are miners who are holding tools in their hands. We can see a person holding a traditional wrench right here, which was used to tighten or loosen specific screws in the mines. They would most likely screw and unscrew parts of other mining equipment together with the wrenches, as you can see with the person on the right, whose wrench is on another mining equipment. There is another person holding up the pillaring tool, which was used to help situate and create space between the stone walls in the mines in order for miners to either go deeper or pick at things without the risk of the walls collapsing. This tool was a great tool for the miners to use. The person sitting on what seems to be a box of some sort is holding on to a part of the mechanical digging tool. This tool helps mine or pick or dig into the walls or grounds of the mines easily, instead of the miners exerting too much energy in digging themselves. This machine is man-powered, which requires mechanical hand movements in order for the machine to work effectively. So there are other tools along with the tools shown in this photo that were used in the late 19th century. These tools include stone hammers that were made from diorite, which was used to crack and pound the gold ores as well as drive in the iron chisels. These are the stone hammers. They used iron crowbars like this, which were used to break blasted rocks and to remove loose rock on roof sides and the working face of mines. They also use iron chisels, which is this image right here. Iron chisels made of wrought iron or low carbon steel were used to further crack and dislodge rock partially cracked by fire setting or explosives. They also used broadened stone or wooden wedges, like in this photo, which were used sometimes as an alternative to iron chisels when either the iron chisels would wear out or they just didn't have any. They also used the traditional pickaxe, as shown in this photo right here, which was an iron tool hafted into a wooden handle, which was another digging tool used to dislodge rock from the rock face selectively when dealing with like a tight or narrow area of ore. They also use iron shovels, like this antique shovel right here, to scoop up loose rocks in the mines. They also use explosives, such as dynamite, which were used to blow up sections of mines for more mining space. They also use fire setting, which were fires that were set against a rock face to heat the stone, which was then doused with liquid, causing the stone to fracture by thermal shock. This was sometimes used as an alternative to explosives. They also use minecarts, as shown in this image, which were usually made of steel for hauling ore, and they are shaped like large rectangular buckets, like this one. Minecarts ride on metal tracks, as you can see similarly, and were originally pushed or pulled by men and animals. They were used to help. They were used to help move earth and mine minerals out from the deep tunnels from the mountainsides. So these are just major tool. These are the majority of the major tools used in the late 19th century South African mines. Moving on, let's discuss who worked in the mines. Well, in the photo, in this photo, we can see that there are African men working alongside an Afrikaner. So you can see here, there's an Afrikaner or a white colonist. There's another Afrikaner or white colonist, and more Afrikaners in this photo. So the native Africans would usually do the most laborious work in the mines as the Afrikaners, as such as these people in white shirt and this one in the hat right here, as the Afrikaners would manage them and perform only special tasks. Many different mines in South Africa were managed and worked by a community of African natives. This community included entire villages, which consisted of men, women, and even children who would all dig and pick away in the mines. This was the system of work in the late 19th century. Africans would pick away at the mines, and Afrikaners or other white colonists would oversee the operations, as shown in this photo, overseeing the operation in the mines. So, next, let's talk about what were the conditions and experiences of the gold mines. Well, overall, mining was a hazardous occupation. When working underground, conditions for all the workers were difficult and dangerous. Mines were completely dark because there was no lights at all. Tallow candles made from animal fat were the cheapest light available. Miners had to buy their own source of lighting. Conditions were cramped. Some of the underground roadways were as little as 60 to 120 centimeters in height. Mine owners did not want to increase their costs by making them bigger, so small children were often used to push or pull tubs or large baskets of mine material onto sleds or mine carts along the low and narrow roadways. Some mines were very hot and wet, and some mines were hot and dusty. Water is always present in all kinds of mines, as it seeps through the rocks above and gathers in underground reservoirs or old workings. Flooding was always a possibility and an ever-present fear. Rats and mice were also known to live in gold mines, although pits generally had one or the other. They were especially common in mines that employed animals as the bedding, and food for the animals also provided food for the rodents. Rats and mice would also eat crumbs or scraps dropped by miners. Dust was formed as stone and other minerals were worked by picking tools. Poor ventilation meant that the dust stayed in the air underground. In some mines, it was so hot that workers wore little or no clothing while they worked. It would feel even hotter if the ventilation was poor. Since the, since the South African mines were really tight and enclosed spaces like here and here, there were risk of spreading diseases and major mining accidents that have led to deaths to hundreds and even thousands of miners. The major diseases that were spread included syphilis, tuberculosis, and osteomyelitis. Syphilis was induced by bacteria and small particles entering into small cuts and abrasions the miners induced while mining. During the 19th century, syphilis was treated with mercury. Tuberculosis was induced in workers by the constant inhalation of microscopic particles of dust generated by shoveling, drilling, and blasting. It was spread by the overcrowded living conditions in the mining locations. As shown in this photo, there is an overcrowding of miners, so which led to a spread of disease. Osteomyelitis was another infection that many African miners suffered from. This infection was this was an infection in the bone that was induced by environments with very poor sanitation. Bacteria and other particles would get into the miners' bodies either through inhalation or cuts and abrasions. In the late 19th century, this infection was mostly treated with amputation of the dead bones in the body. These diseases infected miners in general from their poor health, which was induced by exhaustion from long working hours and limited nutritional resources. And if you noticed, these diseases all had to do with breathing. This shows how poorly ventilated the mines were back in the late 19th century. The mining accidents included injuries from rock falls, mud rushes, and mine shaft accidents. A majority of the accidents would either result in life-changing bodily injuries or even death. This is a testimony of the hazards and strenuous demands of daily work in the late 19th century South African mines. Mining in the late 19th century South Africa is completely different than mining in the contemporary society. As presented, the differences can be shown through the different kinds of tools used, the different kinds of people who worked in the gold mines, and the conditions and experiences when working in the gold mines. And this is my works cited of all my sources, and thank you for listening to my presentation.